Lawsuits, polarized elections, other politically tender topics have graced the headlines lately. It's a lot to digest. Let's break it down with our friend, Dr. Jason Nichols from the University of Maryland. Back up late with me on the Final Five. Good to see you, my friend.
Always good to see you, Jim.
We were talking over the weekend about what is a topic we like to talk about is football, which I had some disappointment with my Steelers over the weekend. That's another story for another day. Hey, I want to talk to you about the big news of the day out of New York, and this involved the lawsuit that the Attorney General there, Tish James, has filed against former President Trump, some of his children, and the Trump organization. You know, there was a lot of speculation about what this big announcement will be. Is this a big deal in your estimation?
To be honest, no. When we start to gauge all of the legal trouble that Donald Trump is in and all of the implications, I don't think this is the biggest deal. The only thing that I would say is a big deal is the fact that it includes his children and Alan Weisselberg, who's already going to be in jail for a short period of time. So I really don't think that this is something that is a major deal. It's another hit to Donald Trump's ego. The fact that it is in the state of New York, which even though he lives in Florida, he will always be associated closely with the state of New York. He's always someone who has made himself seem like the New York billionaire. And we're starting to see the truth about his business acumen or lack thereof, and that it was basically based on a lot of deception if this lawsuit is correct. And also that he inflated his wealth. So I don't know that that will change any minds who already feel one way or another about Donald Trump. And I don't think this puts him in serious legal jeopardy. Sure. But it does maybe take a little bit of a hit at his ego a little bit.
Bill Barr, who has certainly not been a fan of the former president in interviews he's done, said that he believes this is a political hit job because it involves the president's children. Now, the children do work for the Trump organization as it stands right now. You know, when you look from your perspective politically at somebody like Bill Barr, who kind of goes in different directions when it comes to his time with the Trump administration, I mean, what do you take away from that when he says something along those lines?
You know, I don't take a whole lot from what Bill Barr says. I think Bill Barr has oftentimes found, you know, I've oftentimes found him to be a little untrustworthy and disingenuous. I think he attacks Trump when it benefits him, and he backs Trump at times that it doesn't. So I don't take a whole lot from what he says. Now, the children work for the Trump organization. Not only do they work for it, it's not like they're gophers. These are senior level executives and they're vice presidents. They have intimate knowledge into the finances of the company. Now, the company is not General Motors. It's not some huge organization. It's basically a family company. And they have pertinent knowledge. They knew what was going on, which makes them complicit to the crime or the thing that was done wrong here. So I don't think Tish James is wrong for going after them. This isn't a political hit job. I think it's, you know, something that is valid to go after his three children.
We have a midterm election coming up in just under 2 months here, and in fact, just barely over a month at this point. And we're looking at different races. There's one playing out in Georgia right now, and it's fascinating to see where it goes because you have Reverend Raphael Warnock, who's a Democrat, elected a couple of 2 years ago to fill a vacant term. He's running for a full term against Herschel Walker, former NFL player, endorsed by former President Trump. And in that race, I mean, Herschel Walker, based on some of these polls, is leading right now. So when you look at the midterms, you know, from a Democrat's perspective, you know, how do you drive people out to the polls when you have people, you know, who are politically vulnerable like the Reverend?
Well, I think, you know, in Georgia in particular, it's all going to come to turnout. And Biden is very unpopular in Georgia. I think they have him at about 37% approval rating in Georgia when he's about 45 nationwide. So I think that, you know, this is an uphill climb for Raphael Warnock, even though he is the incumbent. And even though he won that election, we have to remember that Raphael Warnock, those were really special circumstances under which he won that election. So I'm not so sure that Democrats have, you know, anything other than to turn people out and, you know, use the core issues. Roe is going to be a big issue. You want to get those suburban, largely white women to turn out. You want young people to turn out. So it's going to be, issues like Roe that are going to maybe make the difference here. But this is going to be a close election. We have to remember, in Georgia in particular, that it came down to 11,000, famously down to 11,780 votes. So it's important that, Democrats keep that in mind and do not get very comfortable. And I'll tell you, I think Stacey Abrams is going to lose. So
well, she's not leading in the polls right now. Yeah.
Difficult for a lot of Democrats in these swing states. North Carolina.
Right.
The other guy is leading Beasley there, and then you look at Johnson is leading
in Wisconsin.
Mandela Barnes. And the other thing, the last thing I'll say, I know I'm talking a lot, but one thing I will say, don't trust polls until it gets down to about 30 days out. You can never trust any of these polls.
Well, we know nothing about that in the news business, Jason. Good to see you again, my friend. Thanks for joining us in the Final Five.
I'll hit you up on Sunday. Thanks.
We appreciate it. Jason Nichols, and we're back after this.